Hi there. Welcome to the While You Wait podcast, where it's all about helping women just like you learn about the bladder while you're waiting for your appointment with that specialist. Each week, I'll combine science, medicine, and common sense so you can learn, become empowered, and get started on your journey to dryness. I'm your host, Dr. Sarah Boyles, a board-certified urogynecologist. Let's get started.
Today's episode is for all of you who are trying to find an online pelvic floor course to help strengthen your pelvic floor. There are a lot of great options out there. I have interviewed a lot of women who offer different courses. I think there are a lot of great things out there, but I also think that there are different philosophies, different coaches have different tones, and so it may take a little bit to find one that suits you. So today I've consolidated 3 of these interviews. All 3 of these women offer excellent courses, but one may suit you better than another. So the 3 women that I'm going to be talking to are Betsy Petri-Johnson, who runs Mama Made Strong. The second one is Kim Vopni, who runs the Vagina Coach. And then the third is Jeanice Mitchell, who runs MyPFM. So we're going to start with Betsy. Her original interview is season 1, episode 18. She's an amazing physical therapist, a mom of triplets, and let's hear what she has to say.
So tell me about the course that you have.
I like to say that when my triplets were tiny, I had a lot of time to think and not very much to do. My boss in England that I was telling you guys about, he really sparked this thought in me about like looking at it from other people's perspective and trying to show them what you have to give, because they don't always know, like they're not always aware. And like that kind of thought, and then my enlightenment of my own body after they were born, like kind of started this brainstorm of like, maybe there's a different way, because there's so much information that people could benefit from that they don't necessarily. So I work 100% virtually, and I have this online program where I really tried to meet people where they are, because there's a lot of reasons why people might not have access to a pelvic floor physical therapist. Either they live in a rural area, or they financially can't make it happen, or they don't have care, or, they just have such a life load that like making time for themselves to go to an appointment, to learn something new and come home and then implement it and then go back is just too much. And like, I personally felt that way. Like I didn't know who to go to. And if I did, where was I going to put my 3 kids in a country where I had no social network? And like, yes, I could pay somebody to come and help me out sometimes. And I did, but I just couldn't justify all of it. Like as often would have been prescribed, and I just could not make it all work. And I was like,
well, I think, when you first have kids, for me, it was for the first couple of years. In a lot of ways, you're just getting by. Right. And so making a plan, even making a plan to go out to an appointment with 3 infants, that takes a lot of thought and sleep and planning. That is not an easy task.
It was just too much. And I was like, and if I feel that way, and granted, everybody doesn't have triplets, but like everybody has lots of reasons why they might feel like they're so weighed down by their life, can't do this. And I'm like, those people still deserve answers. And like, I always say, like, the gold standard is go to talk to somebody. But sometimes people live in rural areas and there's not a pelvic floor physical therapist, or sometimes people live in areas where like they can find a pelvic floor physical therapist, but they're getting answers that are fairly outdated. And they're like, I like your answer. I want your answers because it's more incorporated with how the rest of my body functions, not so isolated. And I want that, and so it's available by subscription. You can get it monthly, you can get it quarterly, you can get it annually. And it's divided up into 7 modules, because I also very firmly believe that I cannot say, do these exercises for 6 weeks and then do these exercises and then you'll be where you need to be, because there's so many variables that come into play. Like, I don't have any idea what issues you're dealing with. Like, am I going to design a different program for, back pain versus an abscess versus incontinence? Like, no, I'm not. And because they're not all different problems, they're all the same problem manifested in different ways. You don't know what kind of issues that person's having. You don't know their life history. You don't know their medical complications. You don't know what their goals are, where they're trying to go, and where they've come from. So there's so many variables that I feel like do these exercises and then do these exercises only works if I know you. And so instead, I have tried to set it up. So the modules are breathing, alignment, pelvic floor, hips, abs. I did that in the reverse order: abs, hips, feet, and upper body. And then within each module, there's 2 to 4 self-assessments. And so it asks the user basic questions that you don't need a medical background to answer, to kind of guide them through understanding their current strategy with, as an example, respect to breathing. What happens when you inhale? Is your movement up? Is your movement down? Where is it? And so then based on their response, it guides them through how to practice. So if they're like, oh, my inhale is moving down, then it's like, check. Now go on to the next assessment and become aware of this other aspect of your breathing. And you keep making your way through the program like that and building on slightly more awareness of how together. And
That's
that
so
way,
brilliant, because most people don't realize how their body works, right? I mean, you just know what you've always felt and move forward. And so I think that form of education is just must be so helpful for most people.
well, I hope so. And my thought was that in that way, I'm not giving them too much and I'm not giving them too little. Because sometimes people are going to look at a set of exercises and be like, there's no way I can do that. What am I supposed to do? And other times people are going to look at a set of exercises and be like, that's so basic for me. That's not what I need. And so in this way, you're learning and you're building on awareness and understanding until you get to the point where you're like, I have never heard that before. What am I going to do? Like how I create an understanding of this thing that I had never even considered in my life. And maybe it's your breathing, maybe it's where your pelvis is in space, maybe it's how your pelvic floor functions, infinitely many different things.
Yeah.
And it's all so interrelated, like sometimes you need the feet to get the hips and you need the hips to get the pelvic floor.
It's true, right? It's definitely true. I saw a woman the other day who was a pitcher, right? And had this huge shoulder injury, which was creating all kinds of pelvic floor issues for her. But it all started in the shoulder, which was just, kind of fascinating.
Yeah.
So your program, is it just geared towards postpartum or is it geared towards all women? Because I think all women could use it.
For sure. And so when I first developed it, I've learned so much. And I also, along with saying I was never going to do pelvic floor, I also said I was never going to be a business owner. And I've learned to eat my words in so many ways.
Anytime I say I'm not going to do this, yeah. Like once I said I would never let my kids go out of the house if they were dirty. That was before I had kids. It was a long time ago.
Yeah. And so I've learned so many things. So when I originally designed the program, I was imagining postpartum women because it was my understanding that I needed to be fairly niche, that I needed to be speaking to a specific audience in order to connect with people. And I have learned so much since starting because, yes, I do think it is helpful to be fairly niche. But because when you start talking about it, the people who aren't actually, postpartum women that need you are going to hear it and connect with it, even though they're still going to get it. And they're going to be like, so is it okay for me if I do it and I'm not a mama? And I'm like, yes, your explanation is just different, so I haven't gone through every possible scenario of why you might X, whatever this issue is, but you already know, your life history and when these problems started. And so however you got there with or without having children, it can still be appropriate. And I've had so many scenarios that I never really planned for. I've had people go, can my husband do this with me? I'm like, yes, he can, And
what's your advice? I mean, do you have a piece of advice for women out there?
So I would say that everybody has a strategy, everybody has a way that they move, and you can always learn to be more effective at it, whether you're looking at it from a power or speed or strength standpoint, or whether you're looking at it from a, I don't want to have pain or I don't want to be incontinent standpoint. There's so many ways that you can learn to be more functional, and it all starts with laying the right foundation. So, I feel like nowadays it's much more common conversation and you can start to get in on it and understand where you're missing, what pieces you don't have. in that understanding. It's so individual. If it's not what your mother did, it's not what your friend did, it's like specific to you.
Okay, so we're going to switch gears now and we're going to move on to a snippet of my interview with Kim Vopni from the Vagina Coach. That original interview was season 1, episode 31, if you're interested in listening to more. Kim is an athletic trainer who has had her own issues with prolapse and is really dedicated to helping women get through prolapse. Her goal would be to prevent prolapse, and she has some amazing online offerings. She's amazingly well spoken. So let's listen to her now.
So you have a whole bunch of programs for women. Can you talk to me a little bit about the different programs that you offer and how people can access them?
Yeah, thank you. I have online programs in the form of kind of like an online course that people can follow through if they prefer to do something on the computer or have a more educational component to learning. And I also have options that are really, I kind of slide in a little bit of education, but it's mainly more the exercise, which is what most people want. They just want to know, what do I need to do and how do I do it? And I have that through an app called the Buff Muff app. And the most common thing that people typically start with is the 28-day challenge. So the first of every month. So today's November 1st and it's launching today. There's a 28-day structured program that incorporates whole body movement into a 10-minute workout that also helps optimize the pelvic floor. So it's a balance between ease, lengthening and stretching and releasing tension, and the effort, which is activating the pelvic floor as part of dynamic movement. And a lot of the movements that you would do are probably ones you've already seen in other exercise programs or classes or at the gym and weight training programs you've done, but structured in a way that it works with the breath and with voluntary activation and relaxation of the pelvic floor to help retrain the timing, the reaction time of the pelvic floor, and also the strength, endurance, and sort of suppleness of the pelvic floor.
You don't hear a lot of people talk about the timing, right, and the reflexes. And I think that is just such a big component, right? It's not just strengthening, but getting it all together in the right time and the right format. So who did you create this for? I mean, who's kind of the dream person? Who do you want to find you?
My dream actually would be to have people that don't have a problem that would like to prevent it from happening in the first place. That has always been my kind of modus operandi, is to try to get this information into the hands of people so they can prevent. But what I've learned over the 18 years of doing this is that people are more likely to take action when there's actually a problem that exists to overcome than they are to prevent it from happening in the first place. So the people who I hope find it are the ones who are experiencing incontinence. And that could be stress urinary incontinence. It could be urge incontinence. It could be fecal incontinence, and or are also experiencing potentially back pain and organ prolapse. I have experienced incontinence myself. I have experienced 2 types of organ prolapse myself. And so a lot of people do come to me knowing that I have had that personal experience as well. And I want the people who maybe have been suffering in silence for many years, who didn't even know that help existed, to find me. I want people who are experiencing symptoms and know that it's not normal and now need a solution. I want people who've maybe been told that Kegels don't work, or that you need surgery, or that, it's just part of being a woman, to find my program. So a vagina owner who's experiencing some symptoms that are interfering with the quality of her life.
I love the term vagina owner. It makes me very happy. So then, once someone does your 28-day course, and then what? Like, what do you offer programs after?
I do. I have a monthly membership. And if you've gone through a challenge, you get a discount opportunity to join that. And you can cancel at any time, but it's monthly access to a whole bunch of other stuff. So it's on-demand workouts where you press play and it's like working out with me. You follow along and do the exact workout that I'm doing. I've got HIIT style, so high intensity interval training, cardio, stretch and sort of yoga based resistance training. So kind of a full gamut of all the different types of movement that somebody may want to do, but with the awareness of incorporating pelvic floor. So here's what we would do to help manage intra-abdominal pressure. Here's what you do if you feel symptomatic in this position. Here's an alternative or a modification for you to do. So there's the workout component. There's also a diet and lifestyle component. There's also a guest expert component because it takes a village to manage our pelvic health. It's not just one person. And I like to bring in all of the other people who speak to it in a different capacity: massage therapy, nurse continence advisors, surgeons. And you then get to hear from other people who can give you tips on how to manage what you're going through. There's meal plans in there. I have a recommended resources because there's lots of gadgets that people are attracted to. And I've curated a list that I think these are the ones that are the cream of the crop, and a little bit of education.
It's interesting, right? Because there are so many gadgets, and there are gadgets that we think work, and then there are gadgets that are highly marketed, right? And they don't always,
and
they don't always align.
And some of them are, even the ones that are highly marketed, they can be effective if the user is effective.
Right.
But you need to have, at the end of the day, the user needs to be accessing that group of muscles correctly, and in order for that device to work. And I think the unfortunate part is simple exercises in not a lot of time can really be very effective, but people still believe that a device will do the work for me, or that if I use this, sit on a Kegel throne for 20 minutes and do 13,000 Kegels, that it's better for me than in the long run. And really at the end of the day, if we have the capacity to move those muscles, we need to be the movers. And we also need to be making a committed effort that it's something we do for the rest of our lives. It's not just a do the 28-day challenge and then you're cured and you don't have to do it again. It's kind of a mindful piece. So the membership helps people stay on top of it with variety in other facets of what is important for a woman's body as well: our bone health and our heart health and our brain health, because we need some impact. And a lot of people with pelvic floor dysfunction are afraid of impact.
Yeah, of doing anything. Yeah, no, I agree with that. It amazes me, how passionate you are about this, and just what a very comprehensive program you've created. So two of the things that I think are really important with this are accountability and coaching. I think that's where a lot of people fail, right? Because they try things and there isn't a piece that kind of keeps them accountable and reminds them to do it, or they have questions and they don't have anyone to turn to when they're trying to do it at home. So how do you provide for that? What kinds of resources do you provide for your tribe?
Absolutely, because it is an essential component. First of all, I want people to know that they're not alone, and that there are people like me that I can come in and help, but there's also a whole bunch of other people that are in this journey with you that you can also learn from. So in the 28-day challenge and in the ongoing access to the app, there's a community area where you can chime in anytime and ask a question, share a win, share a struggle. And other people can see that as well too. So they can say, I had the same thing, here's what I did. Or I don't know, let's ask him, what does she say? So I'm in there constantly responding to those messages. And then I also do a live weekly call. There's 2 times a week. There's a morning time and an afternoon time. So hopefully one of them will work for people, but they can come in for free and join the live Zoom call. And again, first of all, see that they're not alone, that there are other people, and they can hear other people's stories and say, I didn't know that happens to me too. I didn't even know that was associated with pelvic floor challenges or what have you. But then they also have access to me, the vagina, their own vagina coach, right? So they can come in and ask questions as well. And even like just before this call, I got off with a woman who contacted me on Instagram. And when we navigate the healthcare system, there's often long wait times to see specialists or pelvic floor physical therapists. Yep. And I want to provide an opportunity for people to come in who have questions to get some answers, or at least know even what they can ask when they do finally get to see their specialist. Because there's a whole bunch of I don't even know what I don't know. And so I want to have as much opportunity for people to learn and to feel like they have some control over this, and it's not something they just have to wait, endless wait times for, and then often not even know that they have all these other options available.
So the last interview is with Jeanice Mitchell, who runs MyPFM, and she is a pelvic floor therapist who has a clinical practice in Texas, but also runs an online forum for women who have pelvic floor issues. All 3 of these women have had their personal issues with pelvic floor dysfunction in different ways and are super enthusiastic and passionate about their work. And I think that really comes through. So let's listen to Jeanice and hear what she has to say about her program.
And so you have your own clinical practice, right? Where you see patients kind of face to face, but you also provide some online services, correct?
Yes. Yes. So several clinics in the Central Texas area. And then in 2018, I started a nonprofit called MyPFM. So I'm on social media and I have a website and so forth. And so my passion has been to increase pelvic health awareness and access to pelvic floor physical therapy, because there's so many people in the US and beyond that will never, ever go see a pelvic floor physical therapist in person. And so being able to provide resources virtually so that people can improve their quality of life was really important to me.
Yeah. And you do such a great job of getting the word out there in a way that I think is really approachable and not scary. You know, there's things about the pelvic floor that can be daunting to women, and just presenting it in a really honest, open, but, you know, kind of funny way.
Yay. Thank you. That's a
Yeah.
huge compliment. I appreciate it.
So then you also have some courses online, correct?
Yes, yes. So I have a couple different basically options. So I have a membership for providers. So this would be for any pelvic health providers that want advanced courses on a regular basis, webinars, geared to pelvic health, and a lot are geared to pelvic floor physical therapy, but not all. And so that's for providers. But my real passion is helping people that either won't or can't go to in-person pelvic floor physical therapy. And so I have a group coaching program. And so basically, this is a program that not only provides education and information, but it also provides support and accountability, which I think, like taking a webinar, that's great. Like, okay, now I understand what's happening. But having the support and then the accountability, like we all need.
Yeah. So I mean, I agree with you. I think a lot of women really need the support, and we all want it in different ways, right? I mean, some people are comfortable doing it face to face. Some people want a group. So when you have your group, how many people do it at a time? And if I'm shy and I don't really want to interact, do I have to?
Right. So the group is webinar style. So like I do live Q&As and live workouts. Okay. These are virtually on Zoom. And I do have to just give a disclaimer. Like I just started this like a couple months ago. I had a prior coaching group, but this is, as I continue on, I tweak things. Okay.
Yeah.
And like this worked, this didn't work. And so, so now we're doing it webinar style for that exact reason, that there were a lot of people that really didn't want to be on camera. And so webinar meaning you aren't on camera unless I invite you. If I invite you to come forward, then you can choose to accept, and then you can come forward. And so I'll let the class kind of also guide me. Like if they want to be interactive, then I'll bring them up. But if it's just me and they want to type in the chat, that's fine too. So it's really, really up to the person and how they want to.
And I'm sure it's different group by group, right? Where, I mean, sometimes, you know, you see your peers being honest, and then you're more comfortable coming forward and being honest. But it really depends on the group dynamic, right? And how all of those things evolve.
It really does. And how long they've been with me too, right?
Yeah.
So the first time, you know, more people are less likely to be wanting to be on camera. And then as they get more comfortable,
it's a funny thing. I mean, I find for me, when I'm on webinars and Zoom meetings, I'm more interactive than I am in person. I don't know why. I find it a little bit more liberating, but I don't think everybody feels that way, especially when we're talking about, you know, pelvic health issues. So is your program geared for incontinence, prolapse, both?
It's geared for leaks and pressure. So incontinence and prolapse. So many of the interventions cross over in those two populations. And so it's not geared specifically for pelvic pain. That doesn't mean that if you have pain, you can't join, but it's specifically geared for leaks and prolapse.
Yeah, pain's always a little bit more difficult. And then that group coaching, how long of a session is it?
So it's a 6-week program.
Okay.
And, there's these three elements. So you have the educational. I have probably 10 to 15 hours of content for them to watch, kind of at a self-paced pace. But I have it broken out into 6 weeks. So it's bite-sized chunks. And then each week I have homework for them. And so like that first week, we're diving deep into their symptoms. I have them complete a bowel and bladder diary. I have them complete the Australian pelvic floor questionnaire. I have them complete like a goal. So what are their goals and so forth. And so we can really help to identify. And then we take those scores and then we kind of have like a tracking sheet. Okay. So this is week 1 and then we're tracking. And so then week 2, we're diving in, like I'm kind of guiding them to assess their pelvic floor, check this muscle. Like I have a lot of, for those of you that haven't seen anything I do, like I love my models. And so I'm teaching them, okay, here's the bulbocavernosus. And then, here's the external anal sphincter, so forth. Like I'm walking them through a self-check. Does that replace somebody hands-on? No, I require that they have a pelvic exam within 1 year of entering the program and that they're cleared by their physician to exercise before I'll admit them, because you have to apply to the program and there's different criteria, but those are 2 key criteria. They need to be cleared to exercise and have had like a pelvic exam that when I say normal, like we all have some dysfunction. So I'm not saying they can't have any dysfunction, but they're cleared and ready to begin a program.
Right. I mean, just ruling out the big things, right? No
Exactly.
infections, no cancers, you're up to date on your screening, all of those kind of basic things. Yeah. No, I totally agree with that.
And being clear too, like I'm their health coach. I'm their pelvic health coach. In this role, I'm not their physical therapist.
If you're interested in listening to my full interview with Jeanice Mitchell, it is season 1, episode 30. So all 3 of these women have excellent programs. They each bring something a little bit different to the table. They have different levels of energy. They talk to their patients a little bit differently. And I think if you are interested in an online way to strengthen your pelvic floor, I think that they all offer excellent programs. So good luck to you and get started.
Thanks for listening. If you want more information about me or my online work, check out my website at www.thewomensbladderdoctor.com.